Hi, this is Usman Malik of LondonLawTutor.com, and on behalf of the team here at London Law Tutor, we wish you all a successful start to the new academic year 2014. This podcast is going to be about legal aspects of international finance, and I will link it back to our previous podcast on cross-border mergers and acquisitions. When a company wants to expand its market share, it can acquire a competitor or a distributor. We discussed about horizontal or vertical integration in the previous podcast, and I said that we will also discuss in this podcast that how can that company raise enough finance in order to fund that acquisition or merger. So in this podcast, we will be discussing ways a company can raise debt finance or equity finance. What are these? At a very basic elementary level, debt finance is when a company secures a loan, which of course it would need to pay back with interest, and equity finance would be the situation where a company would raise money by selling its shares. An example of a recent transaction would be the IPO, initial public offering of Facebook, where it went from being a private company to a public company, thereby raising a lot of equity finance. Now, for this podcast, the only issues we will cover are the basic issues, particularly in relation to syndicated loans. So, we know a loan is a simple contract between a lender and a borrower. But here things get a little bit more complex when the borrower is a large company who wants to do, for example, project finance. It wants to create a hotel. So it needs a large amount of capital in order to do that. So it would seek a loan from not just one bank, but numerous banks together will provide that corporate borrower a large loan. So these are called syndicated loans, and here a few banks get together and the loan documentation is in one large document whereby all the banks' terms and conditions together will provide this fund to the borrower. And some of the important clauses in these contracts, which is known as the LMA, Loan Markets Association. And it has standard terms that the banks use. For example, acceleration clause. What is that? An acceleration clause is a clause that provides power to the lender that in case the borrower is not able to pay back or breaches any of the terms, like a cross default, and there is an event of insolvency, then through the acceleration clause, the lender can demand the payment of money back immediately from the borrower. So it gives them great strength and shows their economic muscle. The reason why syndicated loans are important is because banks cannot have too much exposure by, i.e., giving too much money to one single borrower, in case obviously that borrower defaults. And a lot of people who have invested in the bank would lose their money as well in case the bank became insolvent, as we have learned from the recent recession where Lehman Brothers fell and then a few banks followed suit. So in this podcast, we are unable to cover too many of the issues in depth, but to give you a basic understanding of this topic, we can say that when a corporate borrower seeks a syndicated loan, an agent bank or a arranger, lead arranger you can say, is appointed, and they have the mandate to invite other banks to join the syndicate, and they prepare an information memorandum, which is sort of like a marketing document that shows that this corporate borrower is worth investing in via a loan. So the arranger bank usually then becomes the agent bank when the syndicated loan has started, and then the repayments go back through the agent bank to each of the respective lender banks that get their money back through the agent. And in case there are events of default, then the agent bank takes that decision on behalf of all of the lenders, whether to call an event of default and use the acceleration clause to demand the money back immediately. So I hope this basic introductory podcast has given you a useful insight into how legal aspects of international finance works. And this is just to give you a flavor and a taste of the basic elements of a syndicated loan. And this topic covers many other areas like asset securitization and joint ventures, project finance in particular. So I hope this has been useful to you and gives you a basic idea of how it works. Thank you for listening. Take care.